WASP-DDLS is short for the SciLifeLab and the Wallenberg National Program for Data-Driven Life Science. It is a national program funded by Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation. Today, we will listen to presentations covering the idea of the program, its international links, and impact on life science. My name is Anna Freid, and I will be happy to guide you through this 2-hour meeting today. The meeting will end with a panel discussion. If you would like to ask a question, please use the chat function, and my colleague Josephine will facilitate incoming messages, and we will do our best to raise them during this discussion. So, without further ado, I would like to give the word to Olli Kallionniemi and Siv Andersson. Please.
Okay, thanks Anna, and thanks everybody for showing up and being interested in this program. We are very happy to see so many of you joining today, and the whole point of today's session is really to get all of us together and plan the next steps of the program. So we just developed like the skeleton of the strategy for the program, and this will happen over the next 12 years together with all of you. So really good to have you here, and particularly also welcome to today's guest speakers, if I say it this way, Hans Adolfsson, Vice Chancellor from Umeå University, and then Jan Korbel from EMBL, who will be talking about their views on this. And I pass it over to Siv now.
Thanks, and welcome to this strategy meeting. And I am extremely happy that the Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation has allocated 3.1 billion Swedish kronor to this initiative in data-driven life science. As you know, the foundation has a task to support excellent research. And you may ask, why this investment now? And the motivation is that life science is undergoing a digitalization process, and we believe that adopting the new technologies will be the key to success in the future. And the ambition is that Sweden shall be one of the leaders in these developments. And the challenge is now is to bridge the gap between AI autonomous systems on the one hand and life science on the other. And we also need to reach out to universities and organizations. And this is why we are having this meeting today. So you will now hear an update of the strategic plans, as Olli said, and you will also get an opportunity to discuss and contribute to these plans. So I hope that you will take this opportunity to shape our joint initiative in life science and enjoy this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I would like to welcome Hans Adolfsson from Umeå University, who will give his view on the initiative and its importance. Please, Hans.
Thank you very much for the nice and kind introduction, and also thank you very much for inviting me to say a few words at this, I think, very important meeting. It's a good event to have here to discuss the future of life science in terms of being data-driven, and to discuss the strategy of this initiative taken by the Wallenberg Foundation. As I put out here, and as also the theme and the title of this seminar is, in fact, the future of life science, that it is data-driven. But I think if we look into society in general, we have a society which is very much also data-driven today. The way we communicate these days, I think everybody is carrying on a cellular phone, everybody is carrying on probably a computer and so on, wherever we go, wherever we travel, meaning that we are always sort of connected in a sense, and that we always make sure that we leave some traces around here, which can be then collected as data. Of course, we have huge amount of communication data in other senses as well. When we travel around, when we go with our cars and so on, everything is connected in one way or another. So there will be huge amounts of data available. When we look into the health systems, of course, we will have an enormous amount of health data available. We have climate data, weather data, we have environmental data, geographic data, demographic data, lots of things goes into registers and statistics. And of course, everything is connected in one way or another. So with Internet of Things, we are generating a huge amount of data, meaning that I would say that society in general is data-driven these days. And that, of course, brings us over to research. And within research, I would also like to say that data has always been a central thing or central theme within science and within research. We have always, especially within natural science and technology, been very much data generating when it comes to how we look upon nature in general. And we have been using various kinds of system in order to collect and then report on our data as well, where the libraries really have served as sort of the collecting pool for the data that has been produced within research and within science. But right now we see a huge paradigm shift. We go into, just as mentioned in the introduction here, the world of digitalization, but everything really results in huge numbers of data. If we look upon sequencing, imaging, analysis of any kinds within science, produces enormous amounts of data these days. And that opens up completely new fields of research. We have seen the evolution of bioinformatics. We have seen the evolution of artificial intelligence and how we can use these technologies in order to handle all the amount of data that is coming out. And of course, in order to do that properly, we need a good infrastructure to take care of all the amounts of data that is generated as well. And a lot of discussions these days concern the open data. Using open data and sharing data is really being something that is on, I would say, the highest level these days. And just the pandemic to which we are, well, we're still not through it, but we are starting to see the end of the pandemic anyhow. It's just one example on how important it is to share data in order to tackle these very important things. For instance, the development of vaccines and so on is for sure a result of how sharing data has, which has made this possible. And of course, that also boils down to the quality of data that we have. We need to have data which is, well, of course, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible. The FAIR principles is one thing that is really very much in focus these days. I mentioned research infrastructure is E infrastructure is very important there. And if we look upon the Swedish system, we have quite a number of different bodies taking care of research data, I would say. We have the universities, we have the national and local research infrastructure, we have the National Library of Sweden, we have the Swedish Research Council, we have the Swedish University Computer Network, SUNET, we have the Swedish National Infrastructure for Computing, SNIC, currently, anyhow, and then also the Swedish National Datatjänst, or SND. We have microdata online access, we have archives and so on. And then, of course, the health data taken care of by the regions at hospitals is really central. And at the same time, the European Union is trying to sort of get this to be possible to share over the borders within Europe, within the European Open Science Cloud. So we have a lot of things going on at the currently that try to handle all the data that is produced. And what we really need to do, I think, in the future is to look, how can we organize this in a much better way? And there we also see a huge need for coordination and collaboration on how can data be used in order to be shared in the proper manner. The Association of Swedish Higher Education Institutions, together with the Swedish Research Council, made a report looking how could this be organized. And that was very crucial for the public inquiry made by Tobias Krantz, who recently published his report on how research infrastructure and especially e-infrastructure could be organized in Sweden. And you see the titles of these two the work here. But coming down to what this event is really all about is, of course, data generating research facilities. And we have enormous amount of data produced at the various infrastructure we have around in the country, both localized at our universities and in our different organizations, especially at SciLifeLab, of course. We also see that we produce lots of data, for instance, at Max 4, and we will produce a lot of data at the ESS facility whenever that is ready. And that needs to be taken care of. And therefore, the initiative taken by the Knut and Louise Wallenberg Foundation on putting up data-driven life science initiative is really, really important, because it bridges over a number of different things that we have currently going on. For instance, the Wallenberg Center for Molecular, the VCMM, together with the SciLifeLab, generating huge amounts of scientific data when it comes to the life science sector, together with the initiatives on the artificial intelligence side, so the WASP, the WASP-HS, and also on the quantum side, the VACT programs. To bring these together within the data-driven life science, to use the technology and try to link this together is a really, really important issue, I must say. And that will also be very crucial for how successful we will be. We will hear a lot about these initiatives today, and I think that is also something that we really look forward. And just to mention a few things, I know this is something that most of you is probably very familiar with. The idea behind this is really to extract knowledge from data within life science, to develop new technologies, and also, which I think is very important, to educate and train next generation researchers, and especially, I would say, to try to incorporate all of these new technologies and these new knowledge into the undergraduate and graduate education. That will be really crucial for the future in order to get this to be a good turnout. But also within the program, we will recruit young researchers, PhD students and postdocs, and train these. And of course, to provide good data support, databases, and bioinformatics within these 4 topics that has been highlighted, and you see them to the right here. So I'm really looking forward to today's meeting and to participate, and for myself also to learn a lot more on the most recent ideas behind the DDLS initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hans. Great overview. And thereby, I would like to ask you, Ollie, to please introduce our next guest.
Right, thanks, Anna. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Jan Corbel, who is a group leader at EMBL and has been there for quite some time. And he was recently tasked by the EMBL to lead an initiative on data science. So we've been discussing this topic previously a lot with Jan and have considered collaborations in this scheme. And as you may know, we just recently completed an MOU of collaboration with EMBL, so that also sets a good stage for further collaborations with Jan. But most of all, Jan has a wonderful description of what EMBL does on the data science side. So please tell us, Jan, the stage is yours. You seem to be in projection mode the way that it's, I mean, in the presentation, now it's okay, yes.
Thank you very much, Ollie, for inviting me once more to present it. I'll give a bit, compared to my last presentation, which some of you may have followed, I'm going to give a bit of an update also. But first of all, I want to say that, so I'm really excited to present to you EMBL's new strategy for data science. This is all embedded, I should say, into EMBL's exciting new program that we're putting forward and that will begin next year in 2022, where in addition to the various fundamental life science research that EMBL has already been involved in, there will be new so-called transversal themes that bridge from understanding human ecosystems to cellular ecosystems and ecosystems of microbes to basically understand humans better, but also planetary biology, how we term it, basically how life on Earth is continuously evolving in relation to new pressures that come from pollution and environmental and climate change. And so it's a quite broad program. In this regard, data science is a bit of a theme on its own. So we are very strong in our view that data science needs to be improved at EMBL and throughout life sciences for the following important reasons. We see really very strong data doubling times across different subfields of science, approximately every 18 months in scientific fields, which includes biology. Data sizes double. It's true for genomes, cancer genomes, or rare disease genomes as examples. It's true for non-omic structure types, such as non-omic data types, such as imaging and structural data. And for sure, it's true for the various data types that we aspire to create in a new program. So we believe data science really needs to be at the heart of this. But for EMBL, there's an important additional aspect. And to some extent, that's actually also true for SciLifeLab. So here's the reasoning. Actually, for the EMBL, again, to some extent, this is actually unique for us. We really need to consider the whole biodata lifecycle as we term it. So we are within an institution generating data. Of course, we are also analyzing data that we're generating if we're generating it for our research and not as a service to our member states. We're involved in interpretation, publication, as everyone else is, but we're also archiving the data through our archives at the EBI to foster reuse and the generation of new hypotheses and then more data. And since we are really working on the whole life cycle of data, specifically for data types that come from our large-scale infrastructures, structure biology, and now also imaging, we need to consider how to keep data in its best form and make proper use of this. We are a multi-site organization. We have 6 sites, and all of the sites, apart from one, which is the EBI produced data, then of the sites that we have, all perform data analysis, and the EBI, of course, archives the data. We are coordinating data across all of our sites, both internally and externally, to realize our research aims. And in this regard, we set up the data science team with the ambition to develop a network of data science centers across all of our sites and focus on particular priority areas that are outlined here. One is the development of data science methods, new one, and fostering of data science research. And of course, enabling professional redevelopment or continued development of established ones. A second priority area is to have an integrated research data management so that data can flow through our organization in such a form that it can be easily touched by different people, by different sites, and that collaborative research is enabled, and that we can also share data more openly in the organization and outside. So open science. The third one is to build IT infrastructure solutions to help foster these aims and to expand our services, because services are another mandate of the EMBL. And also we realized to achieve all this, we also need to train the next generation of data scientists, which includes wet lab biologists that work increasingly with data types, such as machine learning or artificial intelligence, as some say. And all of this is really with the overarching purpose to enable leading edge technology and leading edge biology, to tackle new frontiers by navigating through different data types, such as in this study here, that's in the bioarchive, we're bridging from electron microscopy to spatial gene expression in the Platinaris worm and performing whole organism segmentation to unveil the development and biology of this stereotactic organism. So this is kind of our ambition, and data science is in our way, in many ways, an important tool to get there. I mentioned services, and we are indeed an organization that performs research and services, and the impact of data science often comes from the ability to quickly interface with a service. And to give examples for this, the imaging tool Elastic, published in the bioarchive and recently in Nature Methods, I should say, is a workflow coming from EMBL that is quickly moving towards being a general purpose service tool for all bioimaging applications, because it performs very powerful segmentation of imaging data. We are also keen to and are developing similar solutions for omics at the spatial and single cell level. To give examples, I mentioned in my last talk the pan-cancer project that I co-led, which published its results last year. We also consider lots of our work feeding into a service, namely a data set and tools to analyze cancer genomes. And last but not least, I'll come back to that at the end of the talk if there's a bit more time. We are also considering how we can facilitate within Europe with our own EMBL tools, better data flows. And one example of this is the European Genome-Phenome Archive, originally an invention from the EMBL, which is now becoming a European-wide federated EGA. And that's not driven by EMBL anymore. It's now driven by Elixir and the community, which is a great thing as it symbolizes how basically infrastructure solutions from data science from our organization can be flowing into Europe to make data sharing, in this case, genetic and phenotypic data sharing in Europe, hopefully much more powerful in the future. Okay, so going back to EMBL, how are we essentially solving things? So to give you one example for integrated research data management, this is now showing in linear form what I previously showed as a circle. So the full life cycle from planning an experiment to producing data to then eventually publishing data so that they can be discovered and the cycle can be undergone once more. And the reason I'm showing it in linear form is that in the case of structural biology, we have lots of things already in place. So that's our pet example to realize data management and a homogeneous approach throughout the institution to deal with data. So, but we need to connect things. So we have basically already in place a CRIMS database for crystallization and crystal harvesting, a ISPYB database for diffraction data collection. Then model validation currently happens in our user laboratories, either in EMBL or in the member states that work with our structural biology data creating sites. The position of final structure model then happens in the PDB, and we are basically working towards systematic archiving of linked metadata there too. So lots of things are in place, and we're connecting that now to complete the life cycle and to have an internal homogeneous and standardized path. And of course, we are all along the lines of our mandates for or our plans to do this open. We of course will be happily sharing this in a collaborative manner, or working with others who are willing to collaborate to do this in the most productive way. So this is one example, and now for omics and imaging, we would like to achieve similar solutions, are currently working on them in different work streams that are focused on these dedicated data types. And then we also would like to bring everything together to then have overarching means to integrate data. Towards implementation, how to get there, we are going to build with a new program that starts next year, a network of data science centers within our organization. These are the 6 sites, which are in 5 different countries in Europe. And we will have data science personnel that will facilitate research advance in data science. They will offer internal and external services, helping us to connect the dots so that we can have, for example, the data management solution that I just presented to you for all of our critical data types, and to offer external services in terms of data resources and critical tools. We'll also contribute to developing common representations of the data, conventions and workflows. These are all important because they facilitate reuse by others and in a collaborative manner, and contribute to training and career development. So how do we do it? And that's in the update. How are we going to do it internally? Well, we will grow our expertise by training people, by new hires. We'll also do internal community building by having co-chairs of the work streams, such as structural biology data management, omics data management, typically coming from all 6 sites. And we're tackling the priority areas also, taking into account the multi-site structure of EMBL. We'll have an EMBL-wide data science day, a full day only devoted to data science at EMBL in October that I very much look forward to. That's internal initially because we need to get people onboard people internally, and but we plan also outward-facing events such as an Aeroforum conference on data science that will happen in 2022. And we're bridging also to member state activities. And Ollie, I'm not sure how much time I still have. Do I have 2 more minutes, or would you like me to end? Because I could end here or tell you 2 minutes about another activity that links to data science. That's the German EGA node, which we see.
You have been granted 2 minutes, Jan.
Wonderful, Ollie. So I'll present that quickly. So I see this as a parallel activity and indeed very synergistic to data science. Here is quickly the motivation. German infrastructures in national infrastructures to keep omics data weren't existing in Germany, indeed had a very fragmented situation. I'm not going to comment about Sweden here, but I'm going to show some exemplar countries that actually have done this very well in centralizing data more. And to overcome these needs, we're building an integrated resource to overcome these data silos with an ethical legal framework for data access to establish transparency and public trust. And that's the German Human Genome-Phenome Archive. So we're doing this initially for patient data sets, which is a platform for long-term fair data archival of human omics data, and it's connected to all major omics centers in Germany. So it's again federated in itself, but it will keep all these data in a centralized form so that they can be accessed throughout Germany. This includes controlled access, data management, and ethical legal data use framework, and also in a distributed analytics platform. And as I mentioned previously, it will become a node of the new federated EGA, which is the federated version of what previously was at the EBI. And I'm closing with this image here of the German Human Genome Archive, which is a multi-site effort in Germany, and it links to existing infrastructures in Germany and also Europe. Actually, I'm realizing I should probably close with this slide so they can see the people involved there. But I'm not going to read what is on the slide because otherwise I will go over time. I'm happy to respond to questions.
All right, wonderful, Jan. This was really fantastic, and also great that you put the rest of the 2 minutes there, because I think everybody will see the healthcare data sharing as a particular challenge. And was this last thing that you described, was that also engaging the healthcare data with it, and to what extent and how that is organized?
So it's so we are currently reaching out to, there is a healthcare-driven initiative in Germany, a new one, and it was just passed by the Bundestag, which many of you know will dissolve, and there will soon be a new one. But there is now a medical genomics initiative in Germany that will develop over the next years called Genome.de. And we were very happy to hear that the Bundestag's Beschluss included the mentioning of our archives. So somehow the healthcare data that will come from the German medical genomics project, which will be launched in the next couple of years, should move into our archive. But they might only move in there once they're consented for research. Details will need to be elaborated. So our archive is really a research archive. It's not a healthcare archive, but we're preparing it to capture all of the healthcare data that are consented for research use.
Right, wonderful. So if there's, we have 1 minute time according to my watch here. So if anybody has a very, very short question for Jan, otherwise we move on. Maybe Jan, I can just sort of ask you the flavor of it, that we decided to term the program data-driven life science. So it is not data science. How do you see data-driven life science being impacted at EMBL as a consequence of the things that you do? And
I would say data-driven life science is a great term, and certainly I would say in EMBL's terms, because now as a head of data science, I'm responsible for all of EMBL, which includes the data-driven research and also the hypothesis-driven research. So we completely see the need for data-driven life science and would like to foster it with any with any opportunities that are arising and all that we can bring to it. At the same time, given that we are an organization that goes through the whole life cycle of the data, we're also creating the best setting for hypothesis-driven science to flourish based on science, on data that's already out there, or utilizing infrastructures that are there. So basically, that would be my response to it. I like the term, though. I should say, data-driven life science, good one. I'll sure be referring to it in the future.
Well, thanks so much, Jan. And sort of we got to move on now. and please stay tuned if you have the chance. But
I would stay tuned. I would stay tuned as long as I can. I have a very important preparation for hearing later, but I'll stay as long as I can.
Great, thanks. So with that, I will actually just introduce myself, meaning that I will next give you a little bit of an overview as to what we have so far planned as part of the DDLS activities, and also the update on the strategy that has now also been published. But as you know, this is a very much of a skeleton strategy at this point, reflecting just the first part planning. So this is the published strategy. It's available on the net, and I'm obviously not going to repeat to you all of the content in it, just give you a couple of highlights to it. You find it from the SciLifeLab website under Data-Driven Life Science. Now, before I get to that, just sort of a reflection of where we kind of are coming to it, that the DDLS program is funded by COAVE, as you have heard, and that funding is actually fairly well described as to how it's going to be used. So we need to kind of respect the COAVE donation and apply it in the manner that the foundation has indicated to us. And there is a fair amount of recruitment and training emphasis here. So this is obviously going to give us an opportunity to do great stuff together and do research, technology development, and so forth. But at the bottom of it, there is a research and training initiative, a recruitment initiative that is meant to keep Sweden at the cutting edge, which is typically also the COAVE viewpoint to this. So we've then, based on that, developed a strategy to focus really on the future of life science as a data-driven area, and that we ensure in this program that Sweden stays at the global forefront, and that we have the 4 research areas that are then where the rubber meets the road, and we actually apply the data science advances to specific fields of science, and that this is a iterative process going from data to experiment and back. I would also like to emphasize that we view the data-driven life science as one of the 3 pillars of the SciLifeLab activities, which consist of national infrastructure, the research community, and then these data aspects. Obviously, it's a standalone program as well, but we should keep synergies in mind across all of these 3 areas when developing the DDLS program. And kind of Jan already indicated, and Hans already indicated some of the motivations behind this as to how we have the exponential data increase, but also exponential compute capabilities, also exponential complexity of the data that we are dealing with. So we are dealing with a convergence of several exponential trends, multiple paradigm shifts. This is very cross-disciplinary effort and iterative automation cycles to be needed as well to kind of optimize life science research endeavors in the future. And as also emphasized before, fair data handling is a key component of the program. One example that I often like to use for saying how we are entering a new field is what you have all probably heard about so much, which is the prediction of protein structure, protein folding, based on the recent advances in AI, and how this has actually incrementally increased capabilities of life science. So we often talk about, like in image analysis, as to whether an application can replace a human or can do things as well as a human can do. But in these types of efforts, like predicting complex protein structures, the AI-based approaches have really been far superior to anything else that has been possible before. And we really think that this will be a great example of also for the data-driven life science program as a whole. How can we really go way beyond as to what is possible today, not just automate things better? And to then get to this program, so we came up with these generic statements of the goals of the program. first of all, create a national framework for DDLS. This means that this is really a joint program between 11 partners across the country. Attract scientific excellence, a group leader recruitment is a key part of the program. We will have 40 new group leaders that will be joining this program. They will also contribute to the training of the next generation data-driven life scientists, meaning both laboratory scientists and computational scientists. We will develop national research programs, collaborative research programs across universities, try to bridge the gap between life science and the data science communities, create partnerships with the external community, including industry, and promote also policy actions, because particularly in some areas, health science in particular, often advances are more limited by the ethical and legal aspects than actually scientific and technological aspects. So overall, in the 12-year period, there will be 40 group leader positions, and they have in their groups also PhD and postdoc positions as part of the package. We will also have freely available or freely for anybody's application. Everything will be obviously competitive research funding. There will be PhD and postdoc positions also for industrial collaborative actions. There will be funding for collaboration with the WASP community, and I will say a few words on this already started effort. There will be funding for the next generation WABI bioinformatics services, and then a support for handling biological sciences better in the future. And important to note that a few of these items, and this is actually some of these things that you might as researchers be particularly interested in, how do I get a PhD position or a postdoc position? Some of these funding initiatives will not start until in 2024 and onwards. And indeed, this program has been very small this year. It will grow much bigger next year. And really, it will start in 2024 with full speed ahead. We have a DDLS steering group, a wonderful group of people who come from all over the country, but they do not represent their host universities. They represent their expertise, and we have been planning all of these efforts that you have now seen together, and I really would like to thank them, and many of them will be presenting today. And really the focus this year has been in the recruitment of the group leaders. So 4 research areas and different PIs. So this is including the 2 different phases. But let me skip to this one. This is the first phase recruitment that is now underway. 20 PI positions in these 4 research areas are now being advertised, and they just concluded. The deadline for applications just concluded, and you will hear shortly an update about that. But there are some 700 applications overall to all of these positions, so it will be exciting to get new talent into the program. And as part of the recruitment, they will also get PhD and postdoc positions. So altogether, this represents a recruitment effort about 100 people that has now been put in motion. And it has been a wonderful effort to do this collaboratively with the whole country and getting all of the universities participating, lined up, and really would like to thank all of their collaboration in getting this going quickly, because we also need to show to KAV, the foundation, that we get this program up and running in a speedy manner. And then finally, my last point is that there is another major program. As big as the DDLS is, there is an even bigger program running in Sweden, as many of you know, which is called the WASP AI Autonomous Systems and Software Program, funded by Wallenberg. And we have been set to collaborate with that research program to really get cutting-edge information technology automation capabilities for life science. WASP is funding that collaboration, and we have funds specifically for that collaboration. And as you may know, KAV has also funded the Berzelius supercomputing GPU optimized for AI type of analysis computer setup that we will be able to make use of. So this is the ongoing joint call, 40 million now allocated for this program, a collaboration between WASP community and the DDLS community. These are the people who are now engaged in planning this and also will engage the reviewers for the applications that have been received. And the idea is really to bridge the two scientific disciplines and make it collaborative with different types of funding programs. We had 72 applications by the deadline, so a good group of people applied, equal representation of WASP and DDLS community, exactly as we would have liked to see that, applications from all across the country to this program. And the idea is to really now, after a review of these applications, make the first funding decisions in October and November. Finally, we have a few events. This is obviously today's event, but we will have an annual full-day DDLS conference being planned. So put the date on in your mind, and also other events happening this year and next year. And you will hear much more updates in a short amount of time from Johan Rung regarding the DDLS data plans. We've also started to engage in planning DDLS training activities, and this is really where we want the whole community to be engaged. We started DDLS ELSA aspects, planning those, also the interactions with the WASP-HS, the humanities and social sciences collaboration that has been also planned, and also planning of new WABI services. So I will stop here, and we will then next discuss the various research areas and how they have been planning their activities.
Thank you, Olli. The focus on recruitment and training provides a beautiful bridge over to the 4 research areas presented here by our 4 research area leads of the program: Fredrik Rånqvist, Janne Lehtö, Emma Lundberg, and Oliver Bilker. First out is Fredrik Rånqvist, who focuses on evolution and biodiversity, but who also will start his presentation by an overall overview of the research areas. Please, Fredrik.
Yes, thank you. First, an introduction to the DDLS research areas and how we are approaching them, especially in building a vibrant DDLS community in Sweden. If you look at some of the key factors for success of the DDLS programs, of course, it's important for us that we recruit DDLS fellows that establish successful scientific research programs, that these research groups are embedded in strong local research environments with access to unique resources and capabilities, that we provide them with cutting-edge computing infrastructure, data services, and support, that we're able to recruit talented postdocs and PhD students, that we run a successful research school and training program, and last but not least, that we build a vibrant community, synergistic networking, and productive collaborations within the DDLS program itself and between the program participants and the remainder of the Swedish life science research community. And I feel very strongly about the last point, and I'll focus on that in describing the research areas. So if you want to build a vibrant DDLS community in Sweden, we have some challenges. Of course, we need to engage, ultimately it's going to be 39 DDLS fellows, all of them and their labs, and across these 4 research areas. We need to engage 11 host organizations for these fellows, and we need to engage the Swedish life science research community at large in this program. And we've concluded in the steering group that we need to focus, the best way we can do this is to focus on the 4 research areas. And I think most of you are familiar with the 4 research areas. You've heard about them already today. So there's cell and molecular biology, epidemiology and infection biology, precision medicine and diagnostics, and evolution and biodiversity. So how do we move towards a vibrant DDLS research community? So one thing we've done in the steering group is that we've identified 4-person research area leads, 1 for each research area. So for evolution and biodiversity, it's myself. Precision medicine and diagnostics, it's Jan Letje. Cell and molecular biology, it's Emma Lundberg. And epidemiology and infection biology is Oliver Bilker. And you'll hear from all of us during this session, at the end of the session. Two activities that we are focusing on now that we think will help us build a vibrant DDLS research community was first scientific mini symposia that we plan to organize in each field. 1 symposium per research area per semester is the goal. We've also concluded that we need an advisory research area expert group. Each group focused on building the sub-community within that research area and linking that sub-community with other DDLS sub-communities. So if we look specifically at the role of such a research area specific expert group, we imagine that will advise us in the DDLS program on research area specific strategies and research profiles, suggest and co-organize activities and community events around the research area topics, take part in evaluations by providing advice on the design of calls and the evaluation process, advise and support the DDLS fellows, postdocs and PhD students within the research area. Act as a research area specific national reference group for data services and support, training and research school activities within the DDLS program. And engage the national DDLS community within each research area. We envision that each expert group will comprise 4 to 6 members and be led by a chair that has the coordinating role. So who should be members of these research area expert groups? We're thinking of senior experts in the DDLS field of interest, covering many aspects of the research area, an internationally leading scientist in the field, someone with a broad international network and connections to similar initiatives abroad as highly desirable. It can be someone from one of the partner organizations in the DDLS program or from the Swedish life science community at large, other universities, industry, healthcare, etc. The group members are selected on personal merits. They do not represent organizations. We envision that these expert groups will work together with the recruited DDLS fellows in their research area or in their research field. Term of office is 2 years and with a possibility of extension upon program prolongation. And if we find that this is a successful way of building a vibrant DDLS community. The level of engagement is expected to be around 10% for these members of the expert groups. We now have an open call to nominate members for these research area specific expert groups. You have the link to the nomination form on this slide. The call closes on the 29th of September. If you wish, you can nominate yourself if you think you're an appropriate person, or you can nominate someone else with their consent. Please help us spread this information in your organizations and networks. If you have any questions, you're welcome to address them to ddls@sciLifeLab.se. Research area specific questions can be addressed to the research area leads for each area. I'll finish by saying just a few words about the evolution and biodiversity area. Then I'll leave it to my fellow research area leads. You've seen this description that we've provided for the evolution and biodiversity research area. At this stage, we've wanted to keep it very open. we've just listed a number of potential data streams that one could work with in data-driven research in evolution and biodiversity. And we really don't have any specific restrictions to research area. We say in this description that you need to address major scientific questions in evolution and biodiversity, pretty much as broad as it can be. As we recruit DDLS fellows, it's inevitable that there will be some focus on their research areas. But the evolution and biodiversity research community in Sweden is very large and internationally prominent as well. And I think it's important for the DDLS program to engage and benefit from this entire community. And also that we make sure that the entire community benefits from the DDLS program. And how we accomplish that in practice, I expect will be an interesting discussion topic at the first mini symposium that we'll be organizing in the evolution and biodiversity area. So with that, I leave it over to Janne, who will be saying a few words about precision medicine and diagnostics.
Thank you very much. So I will give a few slides about the precision medicine and diagnostics, and we can get back to that text that you can also read more, but I'll highlight a few points of that. So if I can get the next slide. So this is just to capture you all on what the precision medicine is. It actually comes down to patient stratification. So it's a matching problem that we have with selecting the most suitable treatment and preventive action to each individuals. So what we need to do actually in the precision medicine is to see the colors, see the molecular traits and properties of each individual, and based on that, select the best possible treatment. And to customize this continuously. So if I get the next slide. So of course, this has lots of implications then, and can be broadened from the patient stratification. And in order to get that to function, we need to connect lots of different areas. And this is a vision from a paper that came earlier this year, highlighting a few of these aspects where we need to connect the healthcare system to the data-driven and technology-driven health precision medicine research in order to allow the big data handling and AI tools. But we also can broaden it to involve the patients by the tools that we have in future. Think about the study designs and the clinical routine, so we can start using the routine healthcare data and longitudinal data collections. Think about the diversity and most of all, build the trust and ethical ways to do the data-driven life science. That will also need policy changes. And just by looking at this picture, I want to highlight that we are planning even to go beyond this. Here they claim routine clinical genomics, but we think that we can add lots more than genomics by coupling the molecular phenotype and so on. So if you take the next slide. So the idea here is also to use the Swedish assets that we have and the assets that we have in SciLifeLab. So if you press once more, we have the healthcare aspects here. So if we can connect the sampling and the data that is generated to healthcare, funnel that to the technology platforms that we have in SciLifeLab, generating lots of interesting data on the molecular level, spatial biology, single cell level, functional biology, and so on. That can all be directly coupled to the biomarker discovery by connecting it to the clinical data. So if you press once more, So the idea with this data-driven precision medicine initiative is actually to connect this data and the healthcare system to form a sort of pipeline where we can actually empower the data-driven precision medicine and move that to a systems medicine that then catalyze new type of innovative trials using the data and the technology platforms, and also support the healthcare professionals with clinical decision-making tools, the visualization, to allow early implementation into the routine. So to form this type of program in 12 years, we can actually couple together lots of different players in order to push the field. So if you take the last slide, which is just a recap of our initial plan, and we hope to get lots of input from the newly formed task force, how to connect the genotype and molecular phenotype together with the clinical data and develop precision medicine for preventive and therapeutic approaches. Also come up with an innovative data analysis and integrative data analysis for molecular patient stratification, and then how to convert that into clinical decision support tools and innovative trials, and really to connect this data and technology-driven precision medicine with a learning healthcare system at the hospitals and the primary care. So we can move to the next research area.
Emma?
Thank you. So well, I guess cells are a fundamental unit in most living organisms, including humans, and yet we don't still understand how cells function, neither on their own or in a ecosystem of other cells. So this part of DDLS is focused on trying to understand or generate data and build data representation of cells and try to understand how cells function by peering into the molecular components in time and space. So this research area ranges from studies on single molecules to cells in cells as a system to cells in native tissue environments and studies of emergent properties that arise when cells interact with other cells. So it's a broad topic that can connect to all the other research areas, and you can all imagine all the new single cell sequencing, imaging technologies, cryo-EM, structural biology, molecular studies. There's a lot of data that can be generated, and a lot of the innovation that we'll see, I think, comes from data integration and how we model cells and how we maybe revolutionize the way we see cells as functional entities. So computationally driven new analysis methods and data integration methods, multidimensional data representations across time and space, short time scales, long time scales. There's no end to the dimensions here. So we, of course, hope, as all the other research areas, that the research in the cell and molecular biology area will also take advantage of all the facilities and infrastructures that we have at SciLifeLab. We have great capacities to generate data at large scale that is not available in many places in the rest of the world. So we really hope that we can leverage this to generate unique capabilities to understand cells, how they function, how normal cells function, and why and how they sometimes deviate into disease. Thank you.
Yes, as we consider data-driven biology and epidemiology of infection, we really need to look no further than the current pandemic to see both the enormous contribution that highly data-driven approaches can make, but also the substantial potential for further expansion of such approaches. You can check out the COVID-19 portal hosted for Sweden by SciLifeLab in collaboration with EMBL to see how data are being generated and shared in real time. 3 data driven research areas of particular importance come to my mind, which are transferable to many challenges faced by infection research today, and which we can explore further in our first symposium coming up later this year for this research priority area. These are merely meant as examples, really, to serve, to illustrate what this priority area may entail. The first area that comes to my mind is that of global observatories of pathogen evolution. Such global observatories were previously developed to monitor the spread, for instance, of antimalarial resistance or antibiotic resistance. And for SARS-CoV-2, we now want to observe in real time where the next more transmissible variant emerges. And once everybody is vaccinated, we will need to be prepared to detect and monitor mutants that break through the immune barrier. And we feel that there is a need to strengthen the use in Sweden of pathogen and medical genomics to optimize patient care, but also to obtain data that can underpin public health decisions. And the DDLS program can achieve this and also catalyze more efficient data and sample sharing, as well as international collaboration. Another example is an overlap with precision medicine, really, where the priority area could help us to better use data and samples and public health registries and biobanks to predict risk factors for severe outcomes of infection, including COVID-19, but also, for instance, sepsis or cerebral malaria. Yeah, both statistical and machine learning approaches are being applied in this area, and this is another area where DDLS can catalyze improved data accessibility and sharing. And finally, there's an opportunity to combine omics and molecular and modeling approaches to better understand pathogen biology, immunity, and microbial communities of the microbiome. And applications such as an improved understanding that lead to improved understanding of biology, then of course are the development of new drugs and vaccines. And antibiotic resistance remains an enormous problem in our area, and it will be clear to everyone now that antivirals would be a great tool to take the edge of the current pandemic and require further investment. And yeah, data-driven approaches in this area will become more and more important, and the AlphaFold 2 that was mentioned already a few times is a great example for that, because among the 5 organisms whose proteins were first predicted at genome scale was the malaria parasite. Of course, because it's hoped that we will be able to push the boundary from predicting protein structures to protein-protein interactions and protein-small molecule interactions. And ultimately, this should help to us discover urgently needed drugs. So data-driven approaches may be taken, may also be taken in systems immunology, for instance, or for devising generic strategies to understand otherwise intractable organisms, such as emerging pathogens. And this whole area will be taking off and will provide close interactions also with WASP and the DDLS programs.
Thank you so much, Fredrik, Janne, Emma, and Oliver. You will all be part of the panel discussion in a little while, so there will be plenty of time to ask questions and dig deeper into the research areas of the DDLS program then. But before that, I would like to introduce Johan Rung, who will share his thoughts on the data process. Please, Johan.
Thank you. So, let's see. All right. So within the DDLS program, as you heard, there will be a lot of work going on in data, and the program needs to enable how we can in the country work with data in a different way for scientific purposes than we've done before. And because of this, inside the program, there was set up part of this one, a data support and databases earmarked area within the DDLS that was earmarked in the donation letter. In the first phase of the program until the end of 2023, there was 140 million crowns set aside for this one, and there's been a rough budget approved in March. The scope of this is national, so it's not only to support the fellows that will come in under the program, and it's really to lift the level of this in the country. So the people working with this now to figure out what to do with this and how to drive the design and the strategy is part of the steering group. And you've already heard a few of them. We have a data strategy working group consisting of Niklas Blomberg, Erik Lindahl, Mats Karlsson, Emma Lundberg, Janne Lehtio, or Fredrik Ronqvist. And from the SciLifeLab Data Center, we've been put in charge to sort of run this. And I'm helping the steering group to do this together with Arnold Kochari, who's the project leader for the data platform within the data center. So the aim, what we're planning to do for this thing here is that we want to enable this type of work. And what does that actually mean? Because this is such a very complex thing. Well, in short, in a very sketchy way, we want to have the data coming in from outside to meet the users and be enabled access to infrastructure to enable this one. And this is a kind of data platform. We call it a data platform in search of a better word for it, but essentially it's a technical environment with support services where we see data coming in from research projects or infrastructures, other platforms like people bringing in data from the EBI or by data acquisition technologies, or in different ways bringing in data into this platform and working with it. Users could be researchers, could be bioinformaticians that support users inside the platform. We can see that this can be a technical environment for software engineering in science. It could also be an interaction area for healthcare and industry partners and a data sharing platform in itself. Of course, in order to do this, we need the infrastructure services, and SciLifeLab is not going to become suddenly a big infrastructure center by itself. So we're going to do this primarily by collaborations. And as previous speakers have said very much, it's very central to the program to do this coordination and collaboration on a nationwide scale, also for the data support package in here. So how do we create this kind of technical environment here? Well, first of all, we are thinking about the whole data lifecycle, from planning a project, making data, working on the data in research project until you share it, you publish it, and you reuse it in your projects. To do that, you need to engage with the community of researchers to figure out what you actually need to do, what's needed to do this, and how is this new field going to drive in the future. So we're going to try to build on existing strengths in the early phase and bring in projects and existing strong services, existing strong infrastructures, but really looking to have the collaboration so we can look far ahead with a vision on what's to come. It's important to have a national coordination with the infrastructure, but also, of course, with the other research programs or other actors in the field. There's many. We need to have a very strong IT environment for this. It needs to be built with a strong IT competence coming into driving this. And of course, open science and FAIR, it's pillars in this one. We work on a data policy and that will talk about the open science and the requirements for actually data sharing to integrate with this. The international collaborations will be very important, and I was very happy to hear Jan Corbell speak here earlier. And what's been achieved at the EMBL is really good, and we hope to have a really good collaboration with them and others internationally. So looking at the components, here I'm just set up a number of the different components that I can kind of think of should have a place or interact with a data platform. This is quite a lot of different things when you start to look at what are these technical components, and it's clear that you have to somehow draw the line, what you build, what you're going to build early on, and what you're going to bring in at a later stage when you have something working. And also in here, it's important to realize that much of this is coming from the research environments that are located out at the research universities. Much of this will be topic specific. It will be impossible to build this in some kind of general way that will serve everyone. So we need a strong engagement with the research environments and a domain-specific look at many areas. We also need to be able to bring in what's built from users and from communities out there. So we can actually, instead of trying to build and serve everything centrally, we should be a platform where we engage with this, where we enable communities to focus on the topic and where we can provide services and make it available and lift it up to a national level so that it can really serve the entire country. So to do this, like I said, the platform for the community interaction, the link with universities, it's something that we're going to bring in very early on. And we already started with, as you know, with many contacts. We have a group of data contacts at each university participating in this, and we've met already. So this is one way where we get feedback on this. And of course, this meeting and hearing the feedback from you now on what you see would be important in order to drive a data platform that really would enable data-driven life science in Sweden. It's very important. We'd very much like to hear that from you. So, like I said, this is going to be like a balance between a central hub that will sort of bring in components to make it efficient and run on a national level, but it will also be distributed out in the country in different ways. We think that we're going to drive and fill with content and bring something up to speed very quickly through something we call Pathfinder projects, where we essentially collaborate with projects in order to drive technology, and that we later on will engage with more open calls for external projects of all sorts of things. So, like I said, I mean, we're thinking about a hub and nodes kind of model here, and the hub. What would the hub be about? The hub is something that we started on to develop, which would have access to infrastructure, national coordination, links to other infrastructures in the country so that we can bring data in and deploy computations at the infrastructures run at different parts of the country. We would have international collaborations. We will have access to data through our links to, for example, the EBI, the links to the data platform at SciLifeLab and so on. But on the other hand, we need to have the topic-specific areas catered for, and this needs to be very close to the research environments. So if you look at the 4 different areas within the DDLS program, what we are thinking about how to do, and this is going to become clearer in the autumn in a few months' time, that we are planning for these type of data domain areas. That's what we call them right now, at least, which would be kind of topic-specific areas where the DDLS program will place staff out at host universities in order to serve for national coordination on these specific topics. So this is still an idea that's forming. We've talked this for a while. We had about quite a lot of engagement with the universities on this, but it's kind of distilling down to something that will be launched later on this autumn. The idea here, as I said, I mean, this would be essentially technical staff that would be hosted at the university, but would be tasked to do national coordination and technical development for the 4 areas. By having them hosted and working out at the university in the research environment, it would be a very close interaction with the research themselves on what's needed, how to support them, and how to bring that in so that the central hub can build what's needed on the national level to lift up what's produced in the area up to the national level, really. And the Pathfinder projects, the way we are thinking about it now, and also will be launched in a couple of months, we say, is that we are planning a call for an expression of interest, where we would essentially look for projects to collaborate with in order to drive the technical development. We think of this as the first stage, and as we develop the technical platform more and more, we see that the larger and larger part of this will be driven by the users, driven by communities and the research areas, where the hub in this one will be primarily supporting this and have a very close sort of coordinating the network across the country. So what we've done so far, we started with some recruitments. We have engaged with university data contacts and infrastructures around the country. We started buying some hardware for this one. It needs to work on something, but as I said, we're never going to be a SNCC center or anything like that. We have started the technical project group that are starting to plan concrete work. So there will be later on the autumn coming up, pretty shortly actually, website with the first data portal for the DDLS and populated with services coming in. as has been mentioned earlier, we have now an LC advisor coming into, and we will work very closely with her in order to be able to interact better with projects that have to do with sensitive data, for example, and human research. So what is this not? We're not going to do allocation of hardware resources. This is not, like I said, a SNCC center. We're not going to hand out terabytes of storage or CPU hours to individual projects or individual users. That's not the role of the project or of SciLifeLab to do this, and that's not what the DDLS program should be doing for this one. That's a role for the universities and national infrastructures, which we will work with in order to make sure that this is accessible. We're not going to directly fund external projects or infrastructures right away from the start. We might have calls at a later stage. In the beginning, we think that we're going to do this through these kind of pathfinder projects and have a much more interactive way to sort of build the technical platform in the early time, at least, of the program. And also, like I said, it's not limited to the DDLS program fellows. The purpose of this is LIFT, to benefit the entire country for this, to lift Sweden in data-driven life science. That's it from me.
Thank you so much, Johan. I think that we will now assemble the panel for the panel discussion. So welcome again, Siv, Olli, and Emma, Janne, Fredrik, and Oliver. But of course, if there are questions for other speakers or other participants for that matter in the meeting, please let us know. You can use the chat function to post your questions, and my colleague Josefin Lundgren-Gavel will take care of your questions and make sure that we lift them up here in the discussion. Josefin, do we have any initial questions to begin with?
I know there's a lot of you out there listening, 150 people almost, so please write your questions or raise your hand. 2 questions I have assembled so far in the chat. So the first one is from Arne Elofsson. He says, Alpha 2 is an impressive example. However, a large part of the reason for the success is the way research is done at DeepMind. In short, they recruit the best people and make sure they can focus on one goal. They do not write grants. The infrastructure is excellent and so on. How can DDLS SciLifeLab learn from this? Do we have someone in the panel that wants to answer that, please?
Well, maybe I'll take that if you don't mind. So I think this is an exciting question, really, and sort of a provocative in some ways, that in today's world, a lot of cutting edge development actually happens in companies and happens on the private sector side. And that is certainly something that we need to make use of and we need to link to. And that's obviously great that DeepMind also has made it available to others, and EMBL has helped in creating this resource that we can reach out to. But then to make DDLS a DeepMind-like project, yes, absolutely, we should take whatever we can to learn from it, like the excellent recruitment. That is a central and fundamental part of the DDLS program. But then at the same time, our task is not just to promote the one cause, but our task is to promote the betterment of Sweden, like KAV usually likes to say, that this is a national program, this is a training and education program as well, and this is transforming the life science community broadly as well. At least that's what our intention is to do, as broadly as we can. And therefore we cannot exactly take a model of a single project, single company in this sense, but great question.
Thank you. So I know that Frida Lundmark, life science expert at the LIF, had some reflections. Please, Frida.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the opportunity for LIF to comment and reflect on the strategy. The data-driven life science initiative is, of course, from an industry perspective, a very important and most welcome and both with respect to the ambitious agenda and the vision, but also for the substantial investment made both from the Wallenberg Foundation and from SciLifeLab, which provides, as we see it, a unique and a solid base for a long-term commitment and persistence to put Sweden as a top nation in data-driven life science. And from an international context, it is, of course, very important, and it will be key to strengthen the competitiveness of life science in Sweden and to attract international investments within life science further, not the least from the research-based pharmaceutical companies that we represent. And data-driven life science will also be important to meet the needs also from the industry. And the focus of the initiative on building excellence and support the life science ecosystem with much needed competence within data-driven life science is, of course, something that we as representatives from the research-based pharma companies very much appreciate and applaud. The future of life science will, as we have been discussing here during this afternoon, be data-driven to a much larger extent, and the successful development of life science will rely on investments on building competence and excellence within this area. So we are also happy to see that precision medicine and diagnostics is one of the 4 strategic research areas, especially since the Governmental Life Science Advisory Board and the working group focusing on precision medicine will establish a roadmap for precision medicine in Sweden during the upcoming 12 months, where, of course, this initiative also will be very important part to include and integrate. So from LIF, we are very much looking forward to develop and continue to follow the development of the initiative. And we would also be very happy to contribute from our perspective to both the initiative and to the strategic agenda. So we are looking forward to continue the dialogue and further develop our thoughts on collaboration. So thank you very much for a very interesting afternoon.
Thank you, Frida. Now I would like to invite Anna Sandström, Director Science Policy and Relations Europe at AstraZeneca, please.
I can start by echoing what Frida was saying about a very interesting afternoon. And of course, this whole program is we are very much looking forward to the implementation of it and how it will promote life sciences in Sweden in general and globally. At AstraZeneca, making the research and innovation process more and more data-driven is, of course, at the core of what we do. And when it comes to industry involvement in this initiative, a part of the DDLS strategy is, for instance, to achieve major collaborations in place with industry. And we also welcome that the program includes industrial PhDs and industrial postdoc instruments. But as far as we can tell, there's no additional co-funding set aside to lower the threshold for initiating such collaborations. So these industrial PhDs and postdoc instruments become extremely important. And I thus strongly encourage to prioritize an industry dialogue on the formulation of these instruments to make them fit for purpose, to pave the way for very fruitful collaborations. Our experience is that cross-sector collaborations are almost always seen as extremely rewarding, but the threshold to enter into those may be perceived as very high, and that it is easier to collaborate with peers in academia. So these collaborations, they don't just happen. And one could consider, apart from having a dialogue in particular about these instruments, to have an industrial advisory board populated by representatives from companies with life science R&D in Sweden. So that's also one thing you could consider to add to the strategy. And just one more thing, I'm also heading the Task Force for Health Data under the government's Advisory Council for Health and Life Sciences. And Frida, she didn't mention that, but she's heading the one for precision medicine. I mean, it's extremely important that we promote the policies that will underpin the success from this initiative and how the health data can be used to promote research, innovation, and improving the delivery of healthcare for patient benefits. So we already from the task force have a strong dialogue with Genomic Medicine Sweden, and we encourage a dialogue with DDLS moving forward. The task force has its mandate until the end of 2022. So thank you so much for allowing me to say something that took input to this strategy. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, Anna. Janne, please, did you have a comment to either Anna's or perhaps Frida's previous comment?
Both. I would like to comment on both because I think that was very relevant points. And I think that of course, I think that the precision medicine and diagnostics is a very good area where we actually need to collaborate with academia, industry, and healthcare system. And I mean, that is especially important in this precision medicine and diagnostics, where the patient stratification and the use of real world data is very important. And of course, that's in the healthcare domain. And I think that this is really underdeveloped. And the one reason for that is that you can start developing drugs in a model system. But if you start developing biomarkers, you cannot develop that in the model systems. You need to develop in collaboration from the get-go. And there we need really to connect the pharma companies, the technology companies doing the patient stratification, the data-driven life science research and technology development, and the biological know-how that we have both in the academia and industry. So, I mean, if we can really solve some of these problems in the patient stratification and the biomarker research within this program, I think that's going to be a real asset in Sweden and for this program. So I think that to connect the pharma and technology companies early on to this type of data generation and research is a key.
Thank you, Janne. Good comment. Please, Olli, you had a comment to that.
Yeah, so just to somewhat echo what Janne said, that this is what Frida and Anna said is really at the heart of some of the actions, even though precision medicine is only one of the 4 areas. It is in some ways really determining in the success of the DDLS program as well, because some of the biggest challenges are really in that area, and we should really do anything that we can to try to promote it. And I think the Anna's idea of an industrial advisory board is excellent, and also the fact that we should all work together in the various stakeholder groups for these policy things and healthcare data access aspects that are limiting many issues. And like Jan Korbel said, as to how things work in Germany, we could have probably drawn a similar plot in Sweden, but there would have been even more individual silos and blocks there. So that's really, really central. So absolutely. And one thing that I just want to say again, that you almost see in this screen all the people today who are linked to DDLS formally. So there's nobody who is funded. There's nobody who is yet working for DDLS as a scientist. So we don't have that community. So before we can start collaborating, we also have to have the people hired, and that's the task that is underway this year and next year. So there's still a lot of time for everybody to contribute.
Good point. Hans, please, your reflections on that.
Thank you very much. And I think we can learn a lot from the various initiatives we have already set up in Sweden, especially with regards to the questions from Anna and Frida in terms of how can we collaborate better between academia and industry. For instance, I'm in the board of the WASP-HS program, and there we have also industrial or people from industry who's also a member of that board, which is very, very crucial for understanding each other from academia and industry in terms of how to set up such arrangement. And so the idea of putting together an industrial advisory board, I think, is really, really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Josephine, do we have any additional questions from the chat that you would like to bring up?
Absolutely, it's burning here. There's a lot of questions. I would love to invite Neos Visa to state your questions. You had several questions, please.
Yes, thank you. No, it's only one question, just that the system was slow and I thought it didn't come in. So I think the plans for the national integration and coordination are excellent and important. What I miss perhaps is a little bit the plan for the integration of the DDLS with the already existing research environments at the universities. I think this is important. It's important for the departments, it's important for the program, so that we get as much as possible out of the interactions. And I think it is very important also for the DDLS fellows we are about to recruit. These are young people that I believe need all the support, all the networking, and all the sort of scientific stimulation they can get from all kinds of sources. So I think trying to make sure that these people we are recruiting integrate, of course, within the DDLS sort of context, but also with the environments at the universities is going to be very important. Maybe not so much in the short term, because they will be already overwhelmed with everything you are planning for them in the DDLS, but a little bit more in the long run. I think it is very important for the success of the program and for these young people that we make sure we bring them into our universities. So I was wondering what the thoughts in this direction are.
Excellent question. Who would like to answer that question? Perhaps either of the research area leads or Ollie?
Yes, I can say a few words, maybe. I think, I mean, a lot of the responsibility for building this strong local research environment will fall on the host universities, I do think. But of course, we envision this also as a role for the research area expert groups to integrate the DDLS fellows with their local environments, but also nationally, of course, with the other DDLS fellows, their environments, and with the larger research community working in the research area, and even across research areas, of course. But it's a mutual responsibility, I think, for us working for the DDLS programs and then the local host environments.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can say I fully agree, and I think we are ready to take our responsibility. And I think the sort of the success will build on the fact that from both sides we give the signal that integration in all directions is important. Yes,
I agree.
Ollie, please.
So if I just sort of reflect that, thank you for the question, because that is really the excellent question in the sense that this is what the DDLS program is all about. How do we leverage the fellows as a recruitment platform, but then also the environment of the fellows at each university, make them collaborative, make them supportive, make the fellows support the local environment, make the local environment support the national environment, and make the national environment support everything else, and link it not only to the research environment, but to the data programs that Johan was just listing in the various angles. So I think there's a lot of things that we can hopefully do, but we also look forward to the collaboration from the university side, that you don't just think that this is a great new guy for our department and think about just the good of your department. This is at the same time a national program, and this will not ideally work, and this will not flourish unless we make this collaborative across the different sites. So obviously, if we had a choice and make a simple program and be excellent globally, we would put the whole thing into one site. So the fact that this is at 11 sites is really made on a purpose, that this is a networking national initiative. So we just need to run it like that.
Thank you. Josephine, I know that we have received some reflections from one of the great data producers, the healthcare side from Region Stockholm, and Clara Hellner. Would you please highlight those?
Yes. So she says this is a fantastic program. The idea of training a selected group of talented individuals in new and advanced methods indeed has the potential to speed up and spread knowledge development in the field. One overall goal is to profoundly change how life science is practiced today. This means that your trainees will not only be trained in specific methods, but also need to act as change agents. In what ways will your training programs differ from traditional scientific education in order to achieve this goal?
Who is up for that challenge?
I was wondering if, Jessica, you want to comment on something. So our training programs are not at all ready yet. So this is just an early stage of launching the planning. But I think you have very good points about what we should be working on and what we should be doing.
Jessica, would you like to comment on that directly or later on?
No, I could comment that I think that the training aspect in the precision medicine is extremely important in moving from sort of diagnostics or things that we do one analysis at a time into the sort of data-driven AI-based tools, systems medicine, and so on. And I think that the important aspect is how do we also integrate the training that the DDLS is working into the different programs earlier in the education. And that's where also the host universities, I hope that they will use and integrate that type of precision medicine thing and use the data-driven life science initiative to integrate that into the program and invite people to lecture and teach and so on.
Can I comment on that? Sorry. My name is Jessica Lindvall, and I've been assigned to also help to plan the DDLS education and training. And I agree with Jan regarding this, and it needs to be in alignment and in communication and discussion with the 11 partners, of course, because this program is not, it should build on each other and align to each other as a complement to everything. So I think that all the university and all the partners can be part of this, and we can build on it together as a strength, as the fellows will be recruited on that. I want to also comment about what you said, Anna, with the industrial partner, because I totally agree with you that it is easier coming from the academia to fall in the academia community. So I think with regards to training and education and all other areas, I think as well, we need a bit of help with that, how to build a good community towards the industry. So every kind of idea you have there, I would be happy to get those things.
Thank you. Emma.
Yes, I wanted to add a little bit on the training aspect and also in relation to, I think it was Arne's comment or question above about recruitment, that it's hard to recruit really good people. And I think here we have an opportunity to work proactively, because that's really how I think you recruit the best people, that you engage people from abroad in courses and fun, activities and seminar programs, so that they really love to do their postdoc at SciLifeLab, for example. And that's how we get the best postdocs, and partner with other great universities and organizations abroad and really think strategically about how do we recruit the best people. I know that EMBL has some nice models for this. Maybe we can learn from them too, but I think we really have to be proactive here. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem in a couple of years.
Thank you. Any other comments to that? Training to recruitments.
I have a comment, question from Ebba Carbonier, please.
Thank you very much for the whole DDLS program. It's very much appreciated, and we look forward to very good results coming out of this. I would like to hear a little bit more on the thoughts, perhaps from Olli and Janne, regarding, of course, we shall have the precision medicine with the diagnosis and treatment, but if we think of some facts regarding a ratio of investing €1 or paying 6, what are your thoughts on that, in investing more in prediction and prevention and precision health rather than just precision medicine and diagnosis and treatment? Any thoughts or reflections on that?
Right, so I can comment that that's a very good point, and it's a very good investment, and I think that I think that, as I said earlier, one of our main assets is actually to gain molecular understanding, and as Emma said, on healthy and the disease case development. And I think that has directly implication to the preventive precision medicine. So if we understand the etiology and gain the knowledge and so on, and also develop the engagement tools, not necessarily that we developed all the tools, but we connect to the people developing tools to engage with the patients and patient organizations and primary care and health and sort of preventive precision medicine. But I think that we need to start by generating the knowledge and developing these tools in more sort of confined settings. And then we have great synergy between the epidemiology and infectious epidemiology project and the precision medicine and diagnostic project, and also to the understanding of the cell biology and disease. So I think that we can leverage by bridging these things lots of preventive precision medicine. But I think that we need to also, within these programs, start developing the program in sort of maybe a bit more confined embryos, and look forward to bridge this.
Thank you. Olli, you also had some thoughts on this. You are muted, Olli.
I noticed. Yes, Seppa, thank you for the sort of a question, a really relevant question in terms of the precision medicine, to what extent that is proactive versus reactive in terms of its efforts. And I don't think that we actually at the moment have any kind of a preference to this. And in a way, this reflects the challenge that we have at this stage in the program. That on one hand, we want to have a broad program where everybody can participate and where industry can interact. And then it ideally should cover all these various aspects of precision health. But then on the other hand, at some point, in a scientific sense of the word, we should also consider how we are really cutting edge and having a niche for the DDLS program globally. And there we may need to do some prioritization. And this is actually exactly why these research area specific experts groups are now being assembled, that we can sort of discuss with a little bit broader community on these priorities. And those are really difficult and interesting priorities as well, as to where do we put them. And with you as a community, as to where do you want to see DDLS bringing help. Because we are not launching programs. We are not launching intervention and drug development programs. We are contributing with data-driven capabilities into such programs. So in a sense, we are there to support existing initiatives in that sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Josephine, do you have any additional questions or comments from the chat?
I have one question. What is the panel's thoughts about communicating with society at large? Sharing data is much about trust. And for precision medicine, the patient/people data are the driver. Will this be part of the DDLS?
Johan, you want to?
Yeah, I can take that maybe. Well, I mean, like we said, I mean, in the data platform, of course, we need to be able to handle sensitive data in the data platform. This is an area that's difficult, and we know that, and it's difficult on many levels. It's difficult when it comes to processes on consents and legal issues. It's also difficult when it comes to infrastructure and IT security. And there's development of this one. We have a good collaboration internationally about this one, and there's some development. But of course, yes, we need this. There's quite a lot of work to do, and human research and human data absolutely requires us to be able to have access and ability to work on sensitive data. So yes, we will work on that definitely. I don't know if that answers your questions, but it's such a big topic. It's hard to nail it down in a short time.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to finish up with the final question to the panel, and I would like to ask all of you in the panel, After this discussion, what is the most important thing that you believe that you could change and have an impact on in regards to developing the strategy further? And if you think that is a too long question to answer in one sentence or two, you could pass it on, and then we will work further on with developing the strategy together. But please, Olli, would you give us one sentence on what you will do tomorrow to change things in the strategy?
Well, I would say two sentences. So first of all, one sentence is that all of the response that we've collected today is useful and will be analyzed, and we'll try to see how we can incorporate it into the strategy. But that's not the end of it. This would be a continuous interaction with the community. So please let those comments and questions come. They will be our resounding board. I mean, you are our resounding board, the whole life science community in Sweden, on how we develop this thing forward. But if I were to say now one word, I come back to the thing that this program is all about these 11 partners and 4 research areas working together. So this is a major challenge, but it's also a humongous opportunity for Sweden to get together to promote research in general, although we have just the data-driven aspect of it. But I think this will have a broad implication, but that is really a two-way street. So we hope that we get continued interest from the community to develop this forward.
Thank you. I would pass the word on to you, Siv. Would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I can echo what Olli said, that this is an ongoing initiative for 12 years. So I really appreciate all the responses and comments that we have got so far. And I think the steering board will look carefully at all of them. I noticed especially, the suggestion to have a board for collaborations with industry, maybe something that can be discussed further in the steering group.
Thank you. Hans, do you have any comments or reflections that you would like to share?
Well, first of all, I like to thank for being able to thank you all for excellent presentation and for being able to participate in today's seminar. I think what Olli and Siv just said is really very important. The long-term perspective and the collaboration in between the universities. This will be a key to success, and I think we have a very good opportunity here to create something really good. So thank you.
Thank you. I will also ask all of you research area leads if you would like to focus on one thing. Janne, would you like to start?
Yeah, I would like to focus on a thought that if one patient walks into the healthcare system, how do we harness all the world's data that is available to help that individual patient? How do we do the data-driven decision on that individual patient and help that? And how do we empower the research community to engage that type of research? And how do we ensure that we'll support the healthcare professionals with the tools that they can interpret the data and convert that to help that one patient, so that we don't get resistance from that development? And for that, I think we need everybody.
Good point. Oliver, 2 sentences.
I am fascinated by the fact that this program has 2 dimensions, and at least 2 dimensions. And one is the opportunity to build national communities around our priority areas. And I look forward to that. And the other is, of course, to leverage this program at the level of our institutions, to break down boundaries between departments, faculties, etc., to bring people together and integrate these fellows into a larger context. And that can be transformative, and I look forward to that.
Thank you. Emma, would you like to share anything?
Yes, I'm also excited about everything that you've already heard, so I don't want to repeat it, but I'm also quite excited about positioning the SciLifeLab efforts in the cell and molecular biology space in relation to all the other ongoing efforts in the world, because there are big similar efforts going on there, and I think we can create nice synergies with all of them. So I'm really looking forward to how we can explore that to make sure that we're creating more than the sum of all parts.
Thank you, Emma. And Fredrik, do you have any words that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's said that nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for interaction between the evolution and biodiversity area and the other areas within the program. And I'm also fascinated by, if we're thinking beyond DDLS, also about DDLS and WASP and working together with computer scientists, artificial intelligence experts, etc., that there's evolution is an interesting principle in improving those systems. So evolutionary thinking can be important in that aspect. And also we have these ethical aspects. Where are these, or in what direction are these systems evolving? Do we have ethical issues that we need to deal with? Again, maybe evolutionary thinking can be of some use in addressing those questions.
Thank you so much, all. With that, I would like to thank all speakers and participants for your valuable input on the strategy. Discussion will continue, obviously. But before we close for today, I would like to leave the stage to Olli and Siv for some closing remarks. Please, Siv and Olli.
Well, I think this was really remarkably sort of insightful and sort of obviously many details are to be considered, and some of you may consider that we just had this high-level discussion. But this is a process. The fellows will be recruited. Postdocs and PhD students will come. Data, new capability in data will come. So just be patient in terms of considering this. And indeed, like nothing has really happened yet. So you have not missed the train. The train is in the platform. It's waiting. So let's work together to the next event, and this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So thanks everybody for this, and maybe last but not least, handing it over to Siv at the same time representing COAVE, I think we should all wholeheartedly thank COAVE for this donation, because it is really transformative for Sweden and life science. It could have gone somewhere else, but I think I speak for the community that we are all very thankful. So, Siv.
So thank you all speakers for excellent talks this afternoon. And thank you all in the audience for listening and for contributing with comments and ideas. I think this is extremely important because this is, after all, a joint initiative with all of us. So thank you for a very exciting afternoon.
With that, I think we will close up and say thank you again for this afternoon. It was lovely to meet you, and thank you for all your input. We'll meet again on November 22nd, not the least. So stay tuned for that as well. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.